Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to refurbish a trial chambers into a proper usable base like shown here. So let's get into it immediately. First, your trial chambers has to be very specific. You want to avoid repeat rooms or a lot of those weird vertical rooms you can see in the top right. This one works pretty decently, but remember that we're going to keep a lot of the main structures intact except remove a few pillars, so be sure you grab a variant that you know you like. You could look at the wiki or fly around in creative mode in some other worlds to see what kinds of variations you can get. Some of them might have encounters, some of them might have duplicate rooms, other ones might be a bit tamer, so it's completely up to you. I do strongly recommend using whatever biome you are building in as part of the theming. I did mine under the ocean, and you can see here on this side we have normal ocean color, and on this side we have lukewarm ocean color. So I decided to go for a very heavy water and heat theme for mine. Definitely using a lot of the steampunk copper age type of blocks in order to further that aesthetic, so keep that in mind. Now, to begin, let's just start with some pretty basic stuff. Find the entrance with the 3x3 stuff, the copper, and what we want to do is drill our way to the surface through any means we need. Now, for the first time on the channel, a bit of replay mod. You can see, pretty easy, we just want to do a 3x3 tunnel to the surface. Might have a little bit of water leakage, but still, that's easily solved. I'm going to be assuming that you have enchanted diamond tools for this when you do this build, especially because you'll need to clear the trial chambers and you'll have a little bit of an issue if you can't clear out those ominous vaults. Anyways, we go in here and we are going to decorate it a bit further, just with some copper and copper bulbs. Additionally, we also need a bubble elevator, fastest way to go vertically that's also sustainable. So glow lichen, do all that. And I have time frozen for here just to make it a little bit easier. Go up, make this simple 3x3 pattern repeatedly. Of course, as stated earlier on screen, modify this as needed. You can see here, it's a pretty generic pattern, but it works for our purposes, especially since this build is mostly about the actual trial chambers themselves, not how you get into them. But still, keep this in mind. Now, line up all the glow lichen. So pretty simple stuff, go up and down. Bone meal will help immensely with this. And then we can do the good old kelp trick at the bottom to convert it into all source blocks. Then place your soul sand to make it functional. And what do you know? Easy in and out access. Well, once we add the powder snow carpet. So of course, go to your grove biome or place a cauldron in a snowy biome. And we can place down some powder snow. You can safely fall on this from any height. You can see there, makes a scary sound, but you're all okay. And now, we're just left with this whole section of the entrance. And really, we have an unmodified trial chambers. We want to get rid of all the bad bulbs from it. The oxidized ones, we need to get rid of. And in here, you can see we have trial spawners, and generally, this is a combat arena. So we're gonna have to be careful. You can see here, the trial spawners, admittedly, they're going to give some loot, but once you open all the vaults, we're going to have to get rid of them. And yes, this is going to take 50 seconds per spawner, but it is well worth it in the end. Especially because, well, they're going to be hazards and you're going to have to weirdly build around them. Fortunately, trial chambers are very common. Go to any village nearby, trade with the cartographer, and get yourself another trial chamber. So, busted all of them out. We'll do the exact same thing with the vaults as well, and also the traps. And this is also a pretty good way to get some interesting resources. So we shatter that, and then we replace the wall. Use your judgment to figure out how you want to actually go about that though. So we have all that, remove your traps, and once you do all that, this is roughly what I got. Of course, this was generated in a release 121 version, so there's more traps than expected. And then, of course, our vaults. I'm going to assume you are on single player. If you're on multiplayer, this can be an issue, but ultimately, open all your vaults and then smash them. It's going to take 50 seconds each, but if you set up a haste 2 beacon, it will go by a lot faster, 40% faster. In the meantime, you can just watch this video, because of course, you want to have those ideas on what you want to do earlier than you actually start building. If you go build along as I say, you might find something later you wanted to incorporate earlier in the build, so be careful with that. Anyways, we're going to destroy all the vaults. Maces are not the preferred tool for them, unfortunately, but still, after all that, you can see through 15 vaults I found a pretty fair amount of treasure, nothing too crazy though, especially for the late game. For 6 ominous vaults, I got some better loot and a few trial chambers exclusive items, including some breach. So now we have all that going on, and our place is looking a lot better already. For the final lootable thing, we just need to shatter all the pots. So of course, make sure that you have a tool to do this, to extract the shards from it. Well, shards, the actual pronunciation. And you can see, just get some treasure out of it. Now, cue the little time lapse where I just go around and shatter absolutely everything. And yep, more replay mod shenanigans. But still, you can get a bunch of stuff from it. Don't forget your barrels and whatnot. All these can get a surprisingly high amount of loot. And you can see this all in my hotbar, bunch of pots. Anyways, yeah, let's just get rid of it. We're in creative mode. We can get rid of all of our other treasures. So now, with all that in hand, we now have a properly secured trial chambers. With our trial chambers now safely carved out, there are no spawners, there are no vaults, all the hard blocks have been successfully removed. We're now left with a pretty nice structure. It has no mob spawns, but it's still a bit generic, especially since it's procedurally generated, and without any of the challenges, it's just a little bland now. Remove any leftover pots, dead bushes, candles, whatnot, and we can end up at the back of the build, and you'll figure out what places you have. I hope you already explored all this. Anyways, now with our big pillar to the top, if you have this kind of entrance variation, I'd say this is actually the worst variation for an entrance. Still, just dig your way through. Hopefully don't have any water spillage like I just got rid of the powder snow there. But with all this, let's just decorate these areas. We want to make sure that the water is, useful. And then we also need to make sure no tough bricks are showing from the bottom. You'll have to do a bit of cleanup from all the vaults you removed. But anyways, using a little bit of clever shelvery on there, we can continue excavating this place out and actually making it somewhat useful. Also, you can expand your powder snow. But here, we can add some beds, just emergency stuff. We can carve it out to be more symmetrical. And you can also remove or add staircases as needed. Remember, you aren't truly confined by the shape of the build. So let's excavate this area here. If you're using the other entrance variations, convert this into your bedroom. I add a very makeshift bedroom later on at the end of the video, just to say that there's a proper room for it. But if you're using any other variation besides this one, then you'll have an easier time. Anyways, decorate it how you would a survival base, changing some of the floors, adding some emergency storage, ender chests, maybe a brewing stand with invisibility potions for easier item reclamation, things like that. And as you go through it, you just continue adding the things, make sure you don't have any empty walls. And there's also a neat little thing you can do. Because I said you want to incorporate theming into the build, this is an ocean themed build. Thus, later on, I incorporate a little bit of sandstone into the walls. So you can see here some of that being incorporated. You can add some water. And generally, we want to make sure it's just more than just a bland build. Right here, we have our enchanting setup using some pale. That doesn't really fit with the rest of the build, but oh well. And right here, we have our mine, which of course is very copper and deep slate themed, using some dripstone in order to indicate up and down elevators, and then a bunch of glow lichen, as if this place just naturally grows a lot of lichen. This is where you connect to your main hall, and we want to make this grand. Without the vault at the top anymore, we can actually modify this however we want. So let's just sit here, and we expand this area, shave off the sides, and you can see a lot more open viewpoint. We can go higher, making sure we don't expose the upper walls, so we have to add a few blocks back, and then add our lighting. So now we have something really good going on. We can also remove these top grates here, and use alternative ways to get into the rooms. I add a bunch of bubble elevators and extra passageways. But now we have the main hall. It's very open now, but we want to continue that open design philosophy with those railings you can see in the bottom left. So let's get rid of the grates, let's get rid of the pillars, let's get rid of everything we don't need. And you can see here how that works out. We can expand those murals. Everything you see here that gets in the way of the openness, you can safely remove. And then we can further polish it back with some added stairs. We can incorporate our own design philosophies into this. So now, walking into it, you can see a lot bigger. The pillars are still in here though. And then the side murals, I used copper golems. Use something that fits thematically. Pause if you want to copy that design. But anyways, our fancy stairs here, you can always modify the staircase. I got a very nice one for this. So now, we just have an area. Notice how we do have ups and downs here, and that's not very conducive for actual navigation. It's interesting for a fight, but not exactly if this is your house. Because of our variants, we're just going to flatten the whole thing out. We're going to make the whole thing out of oxidized copper, and you can always add back the floor patterns if you want to later. You can always just mess around with the full blocks versus the cut versions. So now, let's break some more blocks, and here's where you really get to show what kind of vibe you want to do for the build. Because leaves are very important for pretty much any build in the game, think about what biome's above you. You might have yellow leaves, and do you want to really do that? Or perhaps you want to do something mushroomy, sandy, whatever. Make sure it does fit with the surface above. Certain things just have to go on the surface, and you can't live underground forever. So knock out those pillars there. We're just going to make our simple storage area down here. Just really think about your theming. This is underwater, so I went for water and then I went for heat because lava is pretty cool and I like steam machinery. So now, these open areas here, these look perfectly placed for chests. I put amethyst as a placeholder block, but you can see we have bushes between them, copper bulbs, everything you need, and we have an island in the middle with a bunch of furnaces, lava underneath it with some grates, and some random assorted table items. If you're wondering how you're meant to replace the amethyst, that's simple. Replace it with whatever block you're storing there. Red blocks, red wool replaces the amethyst. And now, let's just move on to the top layer and knock out all the pillars. We just don't want them here. They're just not good for our design because they kind of make the place closed off. Makes it feel like we didn't do anything. So let's knock those pillars down there. We can go here. We can shave off the middle areas as well. Ultimately, we aren't going to need the second floor for much. If there's arena entrances from there, we do need it still. But now, our primary focus is on how we do the ceiling. Make sure there's nothing in the way up here. You can see it's going to come into play for the second main hall, but for the first one, nothing's in the way. So let's shave off 3 blocks upward. And you'll see how I do this. We just mirror it, we go 1 block, we widen it, 2 blocks from any surface wall. This is very important. We go up, we reach the deep slate, we decorate it with some copper and copper bulbs, very important step, and then we make it go maybe about 4 blocks higher. Between each pillar, because there's 2 wide pillars, we add some stairs, and we can also decorate with even more stairs. Make sure everything looks cohesive. We don't want the generic flat design philosophy of the trial chambers, because it works for what it's going for, a Mesoamerican futuristic battle arena, but for here, we want to do something else. And you can see how it makes this weird ribbed shape if you do it right. Of course, pause if needed, world downloads available upon request. So now, with all that, we have something absolutely amazing for the ceiling. With some copper and the very middle parts being normal copper, then some bulbs, some stairs, we have a beautiful ceiling. It makes the trial chambers less cramped, makes it feel more like a cathedral, and of course those are beautiful structures. Theme it around things that you like in real life as well. Pretty much use your imagination. I know a lot of people have trouble with that, but think about it. Who's gonna judge you? This is Minecraft. So now, with all that, remove the ladders. If you had any arena entrances on the 3rd floor, move them down to the 2nd floor. Or alternatively, add entrances elsewhere. Make your walls consistent And if you have a fake entrance, such as a malformed arena, like you see right here, where it generates a single chest, tile over it. We're not going to use it, and it also has some pretty cool treasures. So bye-bye to that. Seal it all over again, and make sure all your walls are consistent. As you're doing this, think about the theming of the build again, and what you want it to do. I do deviate from this for the side walls because by this point in the video, I wasn't actually sure what I wanted to do with the build. But still, we can see down here, we have the fountain, I'm under an ocean. We can incorporate some water patterns into the floor with stairs. Or how about, let's go with the cathedral vibe and include some grandeur into it. So, in this case, I incorporated some warped planks, and then added some bars over the water area. Of course, your intersection is going to be different, there's 3 variations. Also, remove any remnants of the 3rd floor. We're never going to use the 3rd floor in this build, it detracts from it actually. So remove all of that, big walls in the way that don't do anything, get rid of them too. And you can see down here, I made the water intersections bottom floor the main floor, and I'm going to make the upper area inaccessible. That way, it's, well, more traversable. The less stairs in your bottom storage area, the better. Warped planks up here gives it a regal vibe, and then I added bookshelves. I replaced it with something else later though. So you can see here, this is what I really wanted to do. I have a bunch of leaves going across the areas, the side areas where I opened up earlier, a bunch of coral, seagrass, sea pickles, more leaves, and a nice walkway. Then we have the bars, down here, more birch, bars for the pipes carrying the water through the base, because of course, ocean. And then here we have our copper golem, some generic redstone on the left to make it look like we have stuff going on. And then water from black concrete. Notice, well, black concrete looks like it's coming from somewhere we can't see. And then it's all going to flow down into the middle, which has unique designs. Right here is also where you can place a placeholder bedroom, if you have that kind of stair design and a bad entrance. But still, our fountain, much more beautiful, added stairs to the inside, and the waterlogged stairs gives it a kind of guardian-based feel. We have some chiseled copper acting as storage boxes. You can add those around the build as needed. And then our entrance on the left, you can see it will be mirrored on the right. We have some wreaths almost, I'm not entirely sure the proper term for those. And then we had that island I was talking about earlier. Colored torches, and we have some big statues. Notice how we also have a big chandelier right here using both copper and normal torches and even some leaves on it. Don't worry about the watering situation in here. These plants are really cool or something. Statues, pause if you want to copy them. And if you're doing pretty much anything else that isn't my build, they might not work. So don't worry too much on them. But still, they have a different mineral block for the hilts of their swords. Pretty cool idea if you ask me. And then we have our door to one of the arenas there, and on the opposite side we have a fake one, just for the symmetry. Remember, symmetry is very important for this. So now we have a very kind of over-the-top entrance. Our water area is now connected to the second grand hall, and you can probably expect exactly what we're going to do with this. Pretty much exactly the same thing as the first one. So just like that, pop into existence. It's still missing some stuff, but still, polish off those walls, make them all identical, and remove your faked arena entrances. Additionally, you might experience a little bit of interference into the build. You can see here an unfortunate spider spawner. Don't break it actually. If you have a spawner intersecting your build, just disable it and incorporate it later. Or if you really just can't incorporate it, maybe just break it. But because this is a tutorial, I'm going to go for a more common idea. So sealing it off as needed. Polishing the walls, making sure you have the pillars. We can continue. Try to make your second hall similar to the first one and also use it for storage if possible. If you have one of those really tall intersections, maybe turn the intersection into storage. But anyways, you can see here more of those fake entrances. You might want to keep a log of them, because what if you need another room, you run out of room in build, especially because trial chambers can generate with as few as 2 arenas. But be sure to always check them. Fortune 3, very valuable. But now, we just continue exploring the area, smoothing the walls, and you can cover some of the arena entrances if they're on the 3rd floor, and we can incorporate them elsewhere. Anyways, same cathedral-esque design, but we have a problem. the floor of one of the arenas is visible. So we're going to have to innovate. Same walls as the bottom. You can see here, we're just going to do some basic chests, more of the leaves, another island, identical shape. But the real difference is, one, we have smokers here, so that way we can smelt different items faster. And two, the ceiling, slabs. Going for that industrial water vibe, prismarine, plus a bunch of weathered and exposed pipes. Use the middle two oxidation states of copper in order to get your piping and steam works in. Then we have some water here, very nice ending here. If you have the generic ending where it's just a wall, make something up. It's really boring on its own. The water one, try to incorporate it into your build, maybe even replace it with plain lava. You can see we have two water variations, the water intersection and the water end. So we have some pipes made of cyan glass to act as water tubes. We want to tell a story with this build, so keep that in mind. Using this, incorporate your two main themes into the build. Like these pillars here, these could be lava transport, and this is actually our generator area to power all the copper bulbs. So you can see here, it's a bit jarring of a change, but we have a bunch of leaves here. You can pause to take a look. We also have the logs here, and some tuff holding the logs up. We also have some steam rising up from the sides here using exposed pipes. Don't forget, you have the Copper Age update on your side. Use the blocks from there. We also have the water down here, a fake monitor, and notice how we have split watercolors. We have the campfire here, and the tubes go up into the build, and then we have a bunch of redstone mumbo jumbo here with end rods. Lava pouring through. Tell a story with the build. That's really what you want to do. If you need to, write a short story. Will it be cringy? Maybe. But does it matter? You can always just scrap it and use the ideas you came up with. Remember, the more you put your heart and soul into a build, the better it usually ends up, even if you aren't even that good of a builder. We have the water pouring down here. We have aquifer and ocean water because we had the two varying watercolors. So use things like that. Very important for telling that story. And then we have the main intersection here where I do the same thing. Water from the ceiling, bunch of coral, we have a friendly nautilus down here, sandy, we have plants, and then we have a grate going into a conduit. We can even use some water here without bubble elevators to go up and down the build. Then disinfecting, and we have some areas with lava, grates in the walls, heating it up so that way it kills the bacteria, and then we have black concrete behind one grate to transport it to the rest of the build. So we're really telling a story. I also sealed off the left wall since we want to be using this central area, where the ominous vault and beds used to be. So you can see here, basic signs to continue telling our story. Like this is, kind of steampunk, but we even have some digital interfaces. But all this coming together, you can see it's really telling a story with this build. Please try to tell stories with your builds and also decorate your ceilings. So all that coming together, now it's time for our arenas. We can also use bubble elevators to traverse your arenas faster, like this one where it has many different entrance points. So keep a tally of your arenas and look at the Minecraft wiki to make sure you know the names of them, in case, you want to know exactly what I'm saying. Starting off here, we have Eruption. This one is the one with the fountain in the middle, the magma, the hidden dripstone under the center, and it has some cool bridges, generates kind of weirdly, but it's circular. So now, our big deal here is we want to empty out the room. Completely gut the room. Remove any of the walkways, leave only the central pedestal. So now, quick time lapse, and you can see, leave nothing behind. And also, you have any of those weird square portions in the outer walls, fill them in. We want to make sure all the walls are identical except the entrance one, and that's only because it has an entrance in it. With all of that removed, we're left with just a central area, and I decided this is our nether portal room, and thus a nether star works perfectly for this. Remember, pixel art is a fantastic way to spice up your build, so let's do precisely that. In the middle, we are going to make a rudimentary nether star. Pause if you want to copy this. So now, rudimentary unshaded nether star in place, we can continue building the room. There's not much to say. because if you don't want to do another themed eruption room, then you'll have a very different design aspect to this. But fortunately, a lot of the things I say here or do can be applied to different themes. Like, is this your water themed room, your animal room, anything like that. Your main pedestal in the middle should be the thing that holds it together. Anyways, because this is a brewing room, obligatory nether wart. So we're going to remove a lot of that magma. Then, we also have this. I'm adding the lava in, the soul sand, and we have the nether portal coming into place. Make sure that whenever you're building with nether blocks, use several and use a bunch of stairs. You can see kind of a Tory Gate aesthetic there, if you get what I mean. So now, this is our room where we get the lava from, because the whole heat and water theming. So, lighting the portal, and now we have a very interesting room. I carved out the whole ceiling to make a circular one. Description has a link tree to a sphere generator, so that way it can do precisely that. And it's a complex shape, you can always ask about it down below. Brewing stands in the middle, we have the deep slate and the pipes like the second main hall, and we have lava pouring down into the middle like it's a funnel. In the corners, we have all the things that you'd ever need for your brewing. Your melons, your gold, your carrots, and then we have some sugar cane so that way you can get speed, the redstone pile, the nether wart here so that way you can trade with the clerics later actually. Make sure the whole base is filled to the brim. So now, looking up again, we even have a cobblestone generator in the right. And we also have that emergency shutdown thing for just a moment. Signs are very important. The big chandelier in the middle, although not pictured, includes some redstone torches. But their walls are also deep slate in this case. Because it's another themed room, let's go for a darker palette. You're completely capable of changing the palette to the room and adding your pipes. Notice resin is a very good lava themed block. Big red accents. It's actually asymmetrical here. I'm actually not sure if I ever finished this in the final draft. The leaves in the chandelier are now nether wart, and the chandelier is wider and more spiky to give it that menacing gothic aesthetic. But now with all that, it's time for calling this room done, and we go to the next room. This one is very interesting. If you have the powder snow variation, the ground must be carpet, and then it's kind of just an enchanting room from there. But of course, you can always defy that rule. But this, I decided, will be our industry room. And the industry room's pretty cool because we incorporate as many farms as we can. And this is where the soul of Minecraft comes into play. Try to design a farm without a guide. Because, let's be honest, the person who's having the most fun with Minecraft is the one that doesn't actually know how to play the game. When you open the wiki, all the mystique is ruined. Kind of like how falling in lava is good game design, because it makes you afraid and space out the content better. But now, what do you want to fill up this room with? How about burning in lava? Fantastic. You can also die to a cactus, die while collecting glowberries, or potentially you just fall on dripstone, you get attacked by chicken jockeys for eggs, and you freeze. I'm not entirely sure how I ended up in this case. Maybe some bees, because being swarmed by bees is awesome. But anyways, we have a bunch of ideas. The central area here will be your AFK spot. Not because the trial chambers are dangerous, but because we all have some little bit of anxiety. So let's just hide in there. And now, let's incorporate everything we can. And you can see, right to the finished build. This is a bit complex, so let's go through it kind of slowly. Cocoa beans, we have sugarcane farms, we have melons, we have the platforms up here, we have hay bales, we also have the deep slate again. Lava farm, the birch leaves, everything you saw in the build is going to come back. And then we can hop up here in order to access the second layer. We can see how the ceiling has these little modules. One of them I made come down with water, as if they're holding cells or batteries or something. We can do some parkour, and then we can go to this upper area here, where we can actually connect it straight to the eruption room, with another one of those exposed pipes to be like we're transporting lava again. So, back down here again. This is actually a fake tunnel. I made it all by myself. We have our eggs. And this is a pretty simple idea. We have chickens on hoppers with carpets. Going through our catwalk again, we have some hanging raw iron, which you can use trapdoors to hold up. Admittedly, I'm going to change that real quick. But in the walls, incorporate the sides of your farms. Make them visible. Bamboo or kelp, anything like that. And you can incorporate doors to your other more complex ones, so like your resin farm. Hop over here, and if you can do the 4-block jump like I can, you can have your sweetberry farm there. Otherwise, no sweetberry farm for you. Womp womp. So we can look around here, notice just how many things I jam-packed into here. You might have to slow the video to catalog it all. We also have the boxes here again, because they're cool. The most cramped area for every bone mealable item in the game, excluding sugarcane because I'm on Java. And then we also have a mushroom here. This is so you can milk it. This is a cake factory actually, because cakes are kind of quintessential for the old Minecraft feel. Then over here, we have the dripstone, the lava tunnel again, transported straight from the eruption room. So now we can fuel our super smelter, which note is completely non-functional. I don't even think you can actually reach this consistently. But still, we have that monitor there. We have the dried kelp because I know that's a popular source. We have a cactus farm. Make real farms behind all these, and then hook it up. We have our office thing again. Nothing changed about that. We have another cobblestone generator. We have our sugarcane, and then we have our melons. Show the farms when possible. I just, can't exactly incorporate all of them here because, well, I'm on a little bit of a limited time budget. Notice this is the longest production time for any video on the channel at almost 3 weeks. But now we have that done, and we are going to incorporate a whole new section. Because the third floor entrance wasn't preferable for the stacked room, I'm pretty sure this is variant 5, well, let's make our own. Make our 3x3 and set it to air, and you can see we're just going to do the exact same thing we had for the tunnel to the entrance with the water elevator. This is a fun room, mainly because you just get shot by ranged mobs repeatedly, forever, and lose all your stuff. But anyways, you have all this, we're just going to gut the room again. There is nothing good about this room for building. In fact, my original tutorial on this, I recommended just ignoring this room if it ever came up. But fortunately, a vertical room like this actually entails one good thing. You have a free vertical area, not much horizontal, and thus you can play around with verticality. And I do precisely this. Nice empty room. And this one's not too visually stunning. It's kind of hard to work with this room, but I make sure it's as utilitarian as possible, filled with everything you need. So now, let's divide the floors. It's going to be 4 floors. Use bamboo, don't use pale. And then, with your bamboo, we're going to make this the villager trading hall. So, doing some neos here to show my parkour skills because I'm awesome like that. Now, we separate the floors like this. And now, we're going to add in some bamboo and then the villagers. Make their workstations have beds if possible, but for aesthetic reasons, I cut them. Note, giving your villagers food and bread, well, giving beds and bread is going to actually make them give more XP. Anyways, first floor, just some prep, and then all the way up here, we have our villagers labeled. So, you can see here, they're all just a bunch of villagers, every single one. We have some grates here showing the top, so yeah, you can have a little bit of visual cohesion. We have a maintenance zone there. Then we have some emeralds, emerald storage, then we have some chests, generic stuff, and now we have our villagers. The mason, you can see, absolutely awesome, and we have signs to tell you exactly what they do, in case you forget. And we do precisely this again and again. The Fletcher, notice the gravel is being held up by some pale moss carpet, and do this for every single villager. So let's speed through them real quick. Get yourself some blacksmiths so that way you can mass produce diamond gear and ruin the meta. Although, if you're watching this video, you probably know a thing or two about villager trading. Weaponsmiths always have the iron trade, and so do toolsmiths. So you can always sell your iron from the iron farm to get more emeralds. I have not tested a raid in here. By the way, both of them were labeled weaponsmiths. Oops. Then, we have our assorted guys here. If you don't set up everything to do these kinds of villagers, chances are you might be able to exclude them. Although the cleric sells glowstone, and glowstone is amazing for that light level 15, and it's a pretty neutral block. Farmers, you can sell your block fruits, buy the enchanted carrots, and sell your mass-produced crops if you have a villager trading. So, we have that, and then we have the shepherds. Shepherds are pretty basic, admittedly a hard-to-use villager, especially if you don't have a wool farm. And then we have the leather worker. If you don't have a hoglin farm, Just skip this guy. It's literally only useful because of Hogland Farm, so yeah. And then the top 4, because I know you guys don't care about actual enchanting in this game, pretty basic stuff. We also have the crafting table and ender chest on each floor, and the ceiling could use a few more copper bulbs, so actually let's do that real quick. So placing down our copper bulbs, command generated so that way they spawn lit, and then, hooray, black concrete powder for a ceiling works very well as static as well. But now, we have this floor completely done, and we're left with the final room. Now for our final room. In this case, it is a slanted variation, and I'll tell you what to do. You should probably just gut the room completely. This and the pedestal variation can be treated identically. The only difference is the pedestal variation, you have a big pillar in the middle that you might want to play around with by putting some elevators in it, and maybe you want to leave the pillars. But anyways, I just completely gut the room, and we're going to decorate it with some generic stuff. But first, we have to fix the walls. In the meantime, we can discuss some of the other rooms that just weren't in this trial chambers. So, for the assembly variation, this is the one which has the one platform, and it has breezes, and then it has the upper area. In this case, you can do a lot with it, especially depending on the entrance. But you can turn the upper area into a bedroom. You might want to leave one of the trial spawners in, just in case you need more keys, or you can turn it into an automatic farm. And you can turn this into a blacksmithing room. Just so many things fly with it. Then chambers 1 and 2. 1 was already used for our manufacturing room, and chamber 2 is the same thing but with powder snow. Chamber 4 is just a bunch of bridges, and there's not much to do with that one. It might actually be better to leave chamber 4 as is. But now, because everything else was covered, let's talk about the room we actually have. This is a trophy room, and it goes for a completely different aesthetic with quartz and mushroom stem. Dark prismarine here in order to spice it up. Big glowing orb representing the sun. I was going to add planets, but realized that was going to be a bit too much. And then we have some black concrete, just simple square. So with all that, we have the big other side pixel art in here. We have the two-tone fountains, and then we have whatever treasures we have. Admittedly, trophy rooms aren't usually the best plan, but sometimes they work. Remember, if you play Minecraft just to collect treasures, you're going to have a 2-week phase and then you're going to have nothing. Really, the beauty of Minecraft is building and exploring. But anyways, let's add a cute little bedroom here. We're really just a generic little bedroom. You can do any color palette for this, but I chose to go for something a bit smaller, so that way there's a bit more room for editing in this video. It has been a very long production cycle for me. But anyways, we have a bunch of beds here, and we're going to make this pretty much emergency suit up. So add some chests with anything you'll ever need, like strength 2 potions, regeneration, invisibility, speed, anything you'd think you need to ever reclaim your items, hypothetically if it is surrounded by 14 evokers and a bunch of indicators. But finally, let's do a quick fly through the build again. So many things have been done to it that it's virtually unrecognizable. We have all the water going on, we have the birch, we have the storage. It is a completely effective base, and it is completely secure. No mob can ever spawn in the trial chambers outside the spawner. Now, to wrap off the video, let's take a look in vibrant visuals. Switching to Bedrock Edition, let's jump down the hole. I'm in survival mode for reference, and you can see perfect landing because of our powder snow. We have a bunch of warm lighting in here, and whether you like that is up to you. Remember, very much based on what biome you're in. But you can see, it's a livable base. We have a bunch of farms that we can cram in here, and ultimately, it's a base of operations you didn't have to completely build, and we can do whatever we want to the surface. So, regardless, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.